All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Tyler, and I get the privilege to introduce our three presenters today. We have Gretchen and Mary Ellen from Camp K's Camp, and Melissa who's the director of the Arizona Camp Sunshine and Sidekicks. And they're here today to talk to us about running a camp with 100% volunteers. Take it away, ladies.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, guys. Good to see everyone. Oh, I see some familiar faces. Some I don't want to see. Sarah, no, I'm kidding, Sarah. Only because she's from my camp, that's all. I can do that. Melissa, you want to go ahead and
Sure. So welcome, everybody. Great to see everybody here. We really want this to be an engagement piece. We want to find out a little bit about where everybody's at and what other questions you guys have, and really like what are the positives and what are the problems that we've encountered and how can we help each other. I was in Brian's session earlier and it was fabulous. And as he was talking, I'm like, I want to do all these things. And then I thought, well, that comes back to what we're going to be talking about today, and running it with all of our 100% volunteer camps. So what we want to start with just really quickly is a little bit about our different programs. So I'll tell you a little bit about me and our program, and Gretchen and Marianne are going to talk about K's Camp and just some quick tidbits and things. And then we want to open it up and find out where everybody's at, and how we really can connect with each other and share each other's successes, right? And celebrate them, and then find out how we can help each other out with problems that we have. So let me share this for a minute. Sorry. Let me get this. All right. Can you guys see it? Yes. Just a really quick thing. So our camp, Arizona Camp Sunrise in Sidekicks, is 38 years old. And I've been with the program as a volunteer for 37 years. I've been the camp director since 1990 and worked with a lot of people. We do have a paid executive director right now. She's on here. Yay, Ashley. She's brand new. So periodically, for many of the years, we have been 100% volunteer run. Every once in a while, we were able to afford and bring on a paid staff person. So our executive director right now is Ashley, is board development and fundraising. And everything else we're running, obviously our board, and then our programs run all volunteer with our staff. So that's kind of where we're at. We do a patient program, a 1-week camp, and we do a sibling program. We also have a day camp for younger kids. We have retreats during the year, and a variety of other programs. But that's ours. So Gretchen and Mary Ellen, you want to talk about yours?
Well, Mary Ellen's going to say, go ahead, Gretchen.
Gretchen, go ahead, Gretchen.
So just so everyone knows, Mary Ellen is our medical coordination director, and she's also the one that volunteers me for everything. So I usually don't speak until Mary Ellen says, do it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Kind. So we're located in Delaware, and we are a 1-week residential camp. And this year we added an in-hospital program to run congruent with our residential camp. We thought it was perfect timing with everything having to be done virtually, that we could actually get into the hospital much easier virtually. And that proved to be true. So very much like Melissa's program, we are smaller base, but we structure it where we are sponsored by a foundation whose sole responsibility is to allocate funds so that camp can happen. We are 100% volunteer, minus a one staff member who has now transitioned into being a paid staffer, and that is me as executive director. So I am happy to say that has worked out. But the majority of all of our medical staff, including our counselors, activity, staff, directors and things like that, everyone else is volunteers. So I still feel like we fit the mold for having pretty much 100% volunteer. I get a stipend. It's certainly nothing that I can do full time. I teach full time. I can't afford to just be at camp, which would be wonderful. But, and so we are the camp is run by a 4-person advisory board, which I am kind of the president of. And then we have a medical coordination director. We have our program director, and we have our camp director, who serve in the 4 different aspects of camp. And that's kind of how we structure our hiring practices, programming, and the overall organizational structure of camp. Mary Ellen, did I miss anything?
No, you got it. Good job.
Oh, thanks. That's kind of you. All right, Melissa, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So we are talking about what it looks like and how our models of working with this many or almost all volunteers, how it changes and how it's different from the programs that have a lot more paid staff and the capacity to do different kind of programming and studies and those kind of things that we may not be able to do because we don't have the manpower. But what really is it the organization wise that is different? So engagement with all our volunteers, as many of us are volunteers, and how we need to work with our boards and how we're working with our funding partners and our supporting organizations. So we really want you guys to jump in and let us know how your groups are organized too, like what you're doing in order to be able to work better with your supporting groups and everything. What maybe do you think is different about your organization than it is about some of the other camps, that have paid staff to be able to work with that? Where are your partners at, and who else do you really need to work with in order to do this? So, like a lot of ours, we have a board that of course are volunteers also, but being able to connect with them in different ways because, we can't do things a lot of times during the day because everybody else has a job, right? Or different jobs out there other than camp. And being able to connect with everybody is always hard timely wise. So what do your groups look like? How are you connecting with people, and what are you doing with that?
Anybody?
Millie's out there.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
We are similar to Case Camp because we also have a funding organization. So we don't have to raise any funds. The other difference, I think, is that we rent a facility and we pay them a lot of money, but for that, they man the kitchen. We don't have to do anything with food. We don't have to do anything with the actual running of the programming. We will choose the events, the programs, but we don't have to run them. They have a large paid staff at this facility where we go. By the way, I just have to throw in, my biggest concern is our problem, and I've shared this with some of you that I've known for 15, 20 years, maybe more. Entitlements of volunteer counselors. I see, yeah, right here, yeah, we've talked about that, Tyler.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big problem. We did have this year, because of the COVID, one of our counselors that I would have loved to ask to leave, but I couldn't do that. She did resign. By the way, just an FYI, I am now I'm the director emeritus of Camp Happy Times.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Matthew is obviously, that's the other thing I have to say. I'm very lucky to have Matthew on board. And another thing, because Matt is a teacher, he does have the time in the summer. So although he doesn't actually get paid, he certainly expenses can be taken care of by the Valerie Fund. But having someone who doesn't have a full-time job in the summer makes a tremendous difference. So that's how lucky we are. By the way, you see the people in back of me? The cute guy with the white shirt, and that was my husband.
Oh.
Some of you might have met. Anyhow, go on, I'm done.
I think the entitlement part, I mean, that's big on everybody's. I know that was something I heard, we've only been in existence. Our camp's only been in existence for 12 years now. So we're kind of the baby of this group. And so when we came in, we were, ears wide open, listening to the problems and concerns that, you know, a lot of camps were sharing throughout COCA. And one of them is, you know, entitlement with volunteers, especially those who are your veterans or your returners. And one way that, you know, Case Camp has been able to really kind of avoid that is I pretty much put into place, no one stays in a position for more than 2 years. So if they're with a younger cabin for 2 years, that's a bonus. Most years, everyone gets changed automatically. The only people that we kind of honor the request are new staff, just to kind of get their feet wet. But after 2 years, we move people around to different positions so that no one feels like they have to be, or, oh, I've only ever worked with the oldest girls, I couldn't possibly go and work with the middle boys. It's kind of the running joke actually at camp is, oh, where am I going to go next year? Because, oh, I was with the oldest kids, I'm sure I'll be with the youngest cabin next year. So that nobody has the expectation that their skill set is only in one area. Their skill set is expected to be, you know, you came into this position wanting to work with children. And, you know, we often find that a lot of our volunteers are often surprised at how well they get along with. Some of our older volunteers have said, well, there's no way I could really do much with a lot of the teens. They're very different. They, you know, but then they come back at the end of the week and say, wow, I never knew that I could get along with teenagers as well as I did here. So that's the one way we combat, you know, that sense of entitlement is we don't allow people to kind of get too comfortable in roles that they're at. And we're constantly asking people to kind of shift their focus into another area. Certainly we don't tell people, no, they couldn't stay. And yes, there are people that do end up staying maybe, you know, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years in a position, but we like to kind of switch it up as often as possible. So to avoid people feeling entitled to different roles. Anybody else? I can't see hands, so you're going to have to just open up your mic and speak.
Gretchen.
Yes, Lynn.
This is Lynn Jones, also from Camp Happy Times. Obviously, I work with Millie. And I love that suggestion. I'm the staff director at Camp Happy Times, so I love that suggestion about rotating people because, as Millie said, we do have that entitlement thing. But I want to address and get some thoughts from people about, as the headline on this slide says, working with boards. So, you know,
I'm good at that.
What's that?
I'm really good at that.
Are you?
Well, yeah.
I feel like sometimes camp is the, forgive me, you know, the redheaded stepchild of all of the programming that goes on. And as much as Millie stated, we are very fortunate that we are well funded. We don't have to do any of our own fundraising. But it's become very clear to me in the 10 years or so that I've been associated with camp that we need to really market ourselves on a nonstop basis to get people on the board of directors, to get the, you know, executive folks, the marketing folks, et cetera, to remember, hey, you know, remember us, we're one of the most, you know, essential programs of what we do from a psychosocial perspective as an organization. And I'm just wondering if anybody, Gretchen, you might have some great tips, if anybody has any other ideas as to how to get them to acknowledge and support us a little bit more. We have found that getting them to camp so they can see what happens makes a big difference. So we have done that. And, you know, we just kind of throw ourselves in front of them as much as we can to say, you know, here we are and here's what's going on. But any other thoughts I would love to hear.
So Lynn, just let me make sure I understand. So the Valerie Fund, which is who takes care of Camp Happy Times.
Right.
So you are not their only entity that they fund, is that?
That's correct. That no, the Valerie Fund, the main focus of the Valerie Fund is funding centers within hospitals. Okay. So we fund the psychosocial services and personnel within several hospitals in the New York, New Jersey area. Okay. So camp is one of those services that the Valerie Fund provides.
Yeah. I think another great way to get boards, you know, people with the board on board is parents. Is when our parents are speaking to the board members to say, you have to understand, I didn't recognize my child when they were going through this treatment, and they just became a shell of who they were. And then here it is, they got to go to camp, and to see who they became while they were at camp and to see who they returned. They returned my child. I know so many of us have heard that statement, or wow, I just never thought my child would be able to be like this again. And you guys have done that. So I find that using our parents, our parents have to have the buy-in, the ultimate buy-in, because here they are giving giving permission for us to spend a week. Some of our camps, the parents don't even get to meet, they meet at a central location. You get on a bus and they don't get to meet the staff. Our camp is fortunate where parents get to meet and interact with staff, but I could not imagine doing that with, a medically fragile child, sending them to a place where I've never met these people. And I'm sure, the mission is great and everything I read on paper, but I've never met them. So I think getting the parents to kind of interact and support the board and, challenge the board to understand the buy-in is really, because these are the people that have the ultimate buy-in. They see the direct results from their child. So I think engaging parents to become more active and not just show up at fundraisers, but to engage with the board. Encourage that. Melissa, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, ours is, a little bit different because our board is strictly the mission statement is to support Arizona Camp Sunrise and Sidekick, so our camp program.
Right.
So they're directly engaged with, that's what it is. The board is there to support camp.
Right.
But we have had a change in our board makeup the last couple of years, and we actually have quite a few parents, like you were saying, Gretchen, that have become board members. Their skill sets, we've been trying to reach out to the parents, for their specific skill sets and bringing them on the board so they see it and engage them in that way. So, yeah,
You all know the right parents just to give a little buzz to, and we all have them. The ones that if you wanted something done or you needed just an extra push, who those parents are. Those are the ones that we tap. Like Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen knows how to nudge. She knows who to nudge if things for camp need to happen. So she comes to me and nudges me. That's what she's good at. I appreciate it. But you have that parent that, those parents. And so I think that's important to use them.
After I was listening to Brian, I just want to say this, just what you're talking about. I wrote a few notes down and I'm thinking the same thing. Has anyone ever done a parent committee or something like that? I'm thinking maybe we should ask some of our form a group with our parents.
We've done that. We've encouraged that. We have a mom's group that still gets together pretty much every week. They now do Zooms, but they were going out to lunch. They were when they dropped off their kids, they now do a big, all the families go out for, a celebratory, hey, we made it to camp. They go out, they do the same thing after camp, and they stay together throughout the year. And we encourage that. Sometimes I'll show up and they love that. They love to hear all the inside scoop. And we encourage the parents to support each other. And really they're the first ones when we have a new family. They're the parents that I encourage I give, the emails or addresses for new campers' parents so that they could ask the questions that really they want to know, not what they want me to say, but what they truly want to know. And another parent's going to share that. So, yep, absolutely.
Do any of you, go ahead, sorry.
I have a question because we're looking at doing something similar to that, whereas we're forming a camper and parent advisory council. So with that parent group or that mom's group, is that something you encourage or is that something you facilitate? And the reason I ask it that way is because, the way our brains function, I'm thinking of like liability if they go out drinking or something like that. Like,
Sure.
Is that something you officially facilitate or is it something you just encourage?
So I facilitated the initial. I got two parents who I knew were super involved, and I got them to do the buy-in of let's start getting the parents more involved. And so I did facilitate that in the very beginning, and it wasn't difficult for them to kind of take it where I didn't have to do anything else. So now it's more of an encouragement. I don't really facilitate it. The parents have kind of taken on their own role, and at the same point, bringing parents onto your boards is a great thing. I know, a lot of us from the risk management side, which that's great that you're thinking with your risk management hat. Love that. Everybody says, well, I worry that having a parent on the board, it will become maybe more of a nepotism, or, there are certain things that we don't maybe want all of our parents to know. And I think that's really on a case-by-case basis. At Case Camp, we're all about transparency. We have nothing to hide. Have we done things perfectly? No. And we'll be the first ones to tell you that. We did the best what we could with the information that we had. And as always, we came from a standpoint of, we want to make sure our campers are happy and they're healthy and safe. And so from that standpoint, I know that I can, I guess, defend anything that we've done, or the reason we've, our policies, things like that. But yes, all I've done is, at this point, is encourage. Initially facilitate, but then I transition that into just continuing to encourage involvement. All right. Do you want to move? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to move on to the next section, maybe?
Well, I just have a quick question. If
sure.
anybody out there's like, how have you guys set up structures so that you're engaging with the board? Is it different with your volunteers, and as you as volunteers engaging with the board, in the sense of other programs that have paid staff? I mean, is there, a different way that you work with your board, or that you communicate with your board, or that it's structured? Can any of your volunteers, go to board meetings, those kind of things? What have you guys set up?
I have to answer that. So, Lynn is shaking her head. Obviously, whatever's said here doesn't leave here. What happens in COCA, we used to say that anyhow, stays in COCA. I have begged, as I said, I've been doing this for, 1983. And for the past 10 or 12 years, especially with Matt on board, we have begged for Matt or myself to present to the board that meets after camp. Sometimes they let us, sometimes they don't let us. Same thing before camp starts. We'd love to do that. We have an executive director of the Valley Fund who, it depends on his mood. Most of the time, he's fond of us. But there are days where he just doesn't want to hear. He's not interested. And no, that's one of our bigger concerns. I had asked for camp people to be on the Valley Fund board. They only have people on that board who are, Lynn can tell you the kind of people on that board. It's because it's going to be on their CV.
And they're big donors. It's big donors. It's big executives from the area. It's the people who are going to drive funds, basically.
Right. And as Lynn said, we have done so many invites and tried to get people. I once ordered a bus with coffee and Danish to bring them. We're 3 hours away, almost 3 hours away. That's a big problem from our facility. So maybe Gretchen could come down and speak to our board one day.
Listen, Mary Ellen look at Mary Ellen. She's nodding her head. She just talked to me about this. She thinks I need to be a consultant anyway.
She'll be there.
I mean, so yeah, that's a big, big problem that they give us all the money we want. I mean, the girls who know me know that. I don't have to worry about anything I want to buy.
Right.
But we would like to expand. That's the other thing. We don't get the support from the hospitals anymore. Our numbers are not how they should be. And for instance, we wanted to do a camp in the hospital. We didn't get enough support that we could do it this year. That was disappointing.
Millie, I'll call you. We'll take care of that.
Yes, Gretchen. No, come in. Oh, you can't visit me. I forgot.
I will. I will once this is up.
I hope so.
Actually, isn't that the glory of being able to do it by Zoom? We can talk to each other's groups and organizations and boards and lend support by this. So, yeah. All right. Anybody else want to offer?
Raquel. I'm from Camp Enchantment, New Mexico. We have a pretty good relationship with our board in the sense that our camp director attends board meetings. But one of the things we've been talking about is voting rights and whether or not the camp director on the programming side should have voting rights for major decisions through the board. And in the past, it's gotten voted down. But I think us on the programming side, who are there in the trenches with the kids, planning everything throughout the year, feel like we have really good experience and knowledge to pass on to the board. And so I didn't know if anybody had any suggestions on, I guess, a way to phrase advocating for voting rights, why it's important for somebody that's actually at camp, participating fully in camp, why it would be important for us to kind of have a say in those major decisions.
Are the people on your board, are any of them camp people? Have they ever had camp experience?
So yes, we do have an ex-camper who is on the board, as well as like parents of volunteers at camp. So people that have been volunteering with camp, their parents are pretty involved in the community and fundraising and Rotary Club, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yes, in a sense, but not completely.
Right, but have camp experience because they've either been or they're a parent of a child who has been
A parent of a volunteer.
a volunteer. Okay, so I think that is kind of who you would go to first to make sure that they understand. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're at camp, you're the ones that know what it takes to run a camp and the types of decisions that need to be made. There's nothing worse than having a board who makes decisions without consulting those who actually are running the camp. And that is very, very frustrating. I have had that happen as well. So, I think it's going back and having the honest conversation to say, I know I'm a valued member of this camp, and I know you value what I bring, what experience I bring to the camp. That's the same experience I want to bring and knowledge that I want to bring to the board so that I can help shape future endeavors of the board, because the board is ultimately responsible for making sure camp's a success. You can't do what you do without camp, and they can't do without you guys. So, you guys are really a group that needs to work together. And so, what I would be interested as to why they voted it down, what was their reasoning, because then you could pull from that and address the specific reasons of why. To just say, well, we have enough people, we just don't need any more. We're not asking for just any more. We're asking for somebody who has firsthand knowledge of what it takes to, make camp successful. Somebody who's on the ground every day, doing the work. And that's an important factor that everybody needs to consider. So I think that's where I would address first is I would like to know why. And then once I know their reasoning, then I can go back and pull from that to address whatever their concerns are or the reasons why they thought, no, this probably isn't a good idea.
Okay, that's a good idea. I'll have to go through the minutes of that particular meeting and kind of go through.
And
Because
again,
it was
I'm
an older
available. I'm
director.
available
He's
to help.
available.
Yeah, I will write your name down.
We've also talked about putting it actually into our bylaws to have a position that is specifically a camp volunteer that's
Well, and
on the board.
We do have that. It's just the voting rights issue.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they want one of us to be present, but we don't have that voting right. And it hasn't been an issue yet, but I just feel like to value what the camp director brings to the programming side of camp would be helpful to feel like we had a voting right in that meeting.
Yeah, I get it. Somebody, Lisa from Camp Delight had wrote to, in the chat about same thing, no, can't vote. And I agree. That's very frustrating. Again, we just all dealt with, this election and wanting our voices to be heard. It's the same when we're talking about camp. So, I think, again, trying to figure out what is the board's reasoning, transparency, there's nothing wrong with transparency. And I think if they're asking for you to be transparent as camp volunteers and what, what you're spending your money on, because, they're asking you for budgets and they're asking you for delineated details. I don't know why you couldn't vote on the things that you need for your own camp.
Yeah, those are great points. Thank you.
Yep, sure. And there, I noticed people are putting stuff in the chat too. So, check up and, a lot of people are commenting. So when you're asking questions, it's not just obviously Melissa and I, but other people are, giving some answers too. So make sure you guys are looking in there.
All right.
You want to move on?
Ready to go on? Let's see.
I do have a question. I'm just curious
Sure.
for some of the camps. So we've been around for 42 years now. So in our history, when, the board was very much involved in the day-to-day operations, but in the last, I'll say 10 years or so, we've kind of transitioned that model a little bit to the board is responsible for governance.
Sure.
But they don't really have their hands in the day-to-day operations of the camp. They leave that to their staff to say, okay, you guys kind of run the things day to day,
Sure.
report to us as need be. And I think also, and again, I think every situation is different, but I think that, and you mentioned this, Gretchen, is developing that relationship. Because if you have a relationship with your board and they respect your opinion, it makes it a little bit easier to get things done. But that starts with that relationship of, you put the people in a position, trust their decision-making skills.
Sure, exactly. You hired the people in a sense, even with volunteers, you're considered hired. You hired us because you wanted us to run a successful camp. We've done that. We've done it now, for your camp, Daryl, 42 years. I think it's time to trust us that we know what we're doing and give us a little bit more buy-in, a little more skin in the game, if you will. Excellent. Good point. All right, Melissa, you want to?
All right, so we're moving on a little bit, and I'm sure we all have the same kind of challenges since we are talking about volunteers, right? But we also want to talk about the successes and how we've been able to make it work for, like Daryl's camp, for 42 years running with all volunteers. That's a feat, right? That's such a huge success and something to really share about. Like with me and Gretchen too, we've talked about, I work at an elementary school. I am a science lab curriculum specialist. A lot of our staff are teachers, and I'm sure a lot of you have those too, because we're available in the summer, like was said, earlier, and that's kind of one of our tap into things. We've been really fortunate, but scheduling meetings, we've been planning meetings, even with our virtual. We did a virtual and a camp in the box this summer. We combined all our programs. We were meeting every week. We were trying to do things, but scheduling it when, around everybody's schedules, family and work and everything that's personal, and trying to do it. How do you make it work? Like, we've made it work. Obviously, everybody's making it work somehow, but it's exhausting, right? Especially now, I don't know. Like, people keep saying, I'm done with the Zoom meetings. I can't do this as much anymore. I can't be on it. I'm exhausted. And with the teaching profession, our schools here, I'm in LA County, we are not in person yet. So, we're on most of the day, and then we come home, and then we're on doing camp all night long. It's hard, right? It's exhausting. So how are we doing that? How are we getting there? And with our camp personally, we rely on volunteers for, everything, fundraising and tabling events and engagement opportunities and committees upon committees with everything. So how do we not burn out our volunteers?
Oh, did she freeze?
In thinking that they're committing for summer camp, and then we're tapping into them for everything, year round. Oh,
I think you're good.
sorry.
No,
So
you're okay.
my internet's kind of wonky right now. So how are you guys finding your successes? Like, what are you guys doing to engage and get everybody going like that?
Anybody, or any challenges that you've had and you want to talk about that with volunteer recruitment?
I think that we're starting to get to the space of the screen fatigue. You know, in the beginning, when we were holding camp back in July, it wasn't as bad, but as time goes by, like less and less people are interested in participating in that way. And then, you know, we have some concerns even just moving forward with job. We do have a lot of teachers on our staff, so we're very fortunate as well because they are off in the summer. But those that aren't in the teaching environment, that do take time off work, that may have lost their jobs, or their jobs were really impacted by everything, will they even have the ability to take time off to participate?
That's
so
a real concern. Yeah,
long term wise, like I have a lot of, you know, I'm worried about that because we have this amazing volunteer base at camp, but I feel like it's slipping away as the pandemic has impacted so many things.
I'm worried about our medical staff, right? I don't know that they're going to be able to take time off if we're going to do it this summer, if the hospitals are going to let them even. So
right. Yeah. No, I think everybody's kind of in that same, you know, I know we actually condensed our staffing needs just because we knew virtually. But we were certainly, you know, if a staff member said, listen, I can't give, you know, how much time, we had to really think about what we were going to ask of our volunteers. How much time were we going to ask them to commit virtually, because people are holding jobs and childcare issues, all those different things. And it does take some time, but we still gave people a lot of freedom of, if you could only do one session, one day in that time frame of camp, that's perfect. And that way they still feel connected. I don't want them to lose that connection, because then we worry that if they don't see camp in some form, virtually or otherwise, then we may lose them. You know, once you take a year away from something, you find, you know, life happens and life fills that hole of that free time. So we don't want to lose that. So by allowing them to just stay connected, even if it's just for 1 hour once a week, that was enough for us. And that we would fill it with other staff who we knew had more availability. So we were very flexible with that. Melissa, let's go to the medical, because I know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Let's get to medical. So hang on, let me get Mary Ellen's session up here. And
all right, Mayor, you're up.
You're up. So hang on. Let me get it up. Sorry.
So when you're talking about medical volunteers, that's a whole different ball game. As Gretchen says, we're our own breed. We are our own. We are remarkable in that we are unique. And so a lot of the things that we've created for Case Camp really was based on how we set it up in year one. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, it was set up in year one because I had never done anything like this before. And so the way I set it up was out of pure fear and paranoia. But since then, it's really proven, I think, to be one of the best setups that we have. So how do you get volunteers? Well, at Case Camp, we have a nurse travel with every cabin. So there's a nurse that goes with every cabin. That nurse becomes a part of that cabin for the entire day. And so getting volunteers is not always easy, but you have to kind of be creative. So all nurses have friends. Every nurse has friends. Their friends have friends. I know I'm showing my age, but there used to be a commercial for hair color that said, and they told someone, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that's kind of how it goes. That's the best way to get the volunteers. It's word of mouth. And we all know doctors as nurses. We all know doctors. We all know pharmacists. We all know a lot of connections. So making sure that you get the word out is huge. And then keep in mind your families are making lifelong friendships with nurses and doctors as well. So they have some pull in that as well. So some of the ways we do it is through email. We send out email blasts to all of our staff. If you know any nurses, if you know any docs, if you know any pharmacists, get in touch with me. Really, I keep telling people, if you'll come to camp once, just once,
Gotcha.
typically you're in. We got you.
Gotcha.
And they can't help but go back and tell everybody about it. They just can't help it. And so that enthusiasm becomes contagious, and then people want to be a part of it as well. We visit departments in the hospitals because we all are in different specialties. So I did a presentation up on the HEMONC floor, and my sidekick, Teresa, who is not on now, but she'll be listening. So shout out to Teresa, can't do it without her. She's on the pediatric floor. She started doing meetings there. We created, and it's up for Best in Show, we created a nurse recruiting video. So if you get a chance, take a look at that.
A little selfish plug.
Sorry. No, but it is, we take it and we can take it to different hospitals. We can take it to the doctor's offices, and we can show people that nursing at an oncology camp is not scary. You know, the first thing they say is, I'm not an oncology nurse. I'm not a pediatric nurse. That's okay. Can you do first aid? Can you have fun? Can you ride in a canoe? You're good. We'd love to have you.
Mayor, one of the questions in the chat was they get a lot of people to fill out applications and show interest, but then once it's, comes time, they tend to lose some of that commitment last minute. So any tips for maintaining commitment after a volunteer fills out the applications?
So one of the things, and we've had that very same problem, and there's sometimes that sometimes there's just nothing you can do because it is volunteer, and that's going to happen. And so Teresa and I usually anticipate a 2 or 3%, number that we're not going to have. But be creative. That's the best thing I can tell you, is be creative. If they say, you know what, I got to thinking about it, I can't do all of Wednesday. Well, can you do Wednesday morning? Can you do 8 to 11? Okay, well, if you can't do Wednesday morning, you know what, we need a transport nurse on Saturday to take our campers back to the hospital. Would you be able to do that? And so find a way to plug them in. I always like to find out why they're not able to come. Was it timing? Is it something else that I can help kind of move around? Can I switch some things up? So you just have to be creative in how you get and keep your volunteers. And the word of mouth is going to also keep that retention going too. We have community events, everybody does, fundraisers and things like that. Teresa or I always go to them so that there's always a nurse there to talk about our medical program. And then Gretchen was the spearhead this year to literally create the in-hospital program, which was huge. And that was what an amazing example and opportunity to be in AI DuPont at Nemours as the only oncology camp this past year. Was huge. We typically pull kids from AI DuPont Hospital. It's the only children's hospital in the state of Delaware. And we get the majority of our kids from there. I'd say 90%. Typically, how many nurses do you think we get from there?
Just take a guess. Please somebody give an answer.
0.
One.
I
get one nurse, and I get a doctor who says, I'll do 24/7 on-call emergency only. It's the other hospital that's in our state that is probably one of the largest conglomerates in our state of medical that volunteers in every aspect. I have 5 pharmacists that come from Christiana Care. Our medical director is from Christiana Care. We have 7 docs that come and rotate through. Any normal year, we have about 35 to 40 nurses that rotate through. And I will tell you, 90% of them come from Christiana Care. So we also don't have buy-in with a hospital. We don't have that affiliation. So we are dependent on our volunteers. One of the things you do have to keep in mind that was very important with us is malpractice insurance. You have to make sure that either the volunteer has their own, which most of us carry our own, they have their own malpractice, or their facility is willing to cover them.
Right.
Nemours gave us actually a letter in writing. It's on one of the slides. We don't have time to go to it, saying that anybody that volunteers from Nemours is covered under their malpractice. Christiana Care did the very same thing. We got that before we even held our first camp. We got that okay. So they're covered under their facility's medical malpractice insurance. But some people are, you know, that's something that's very important to them. Also check with your own camp insurance. Make sure that they know the volunteers you're going to have pharmacists, you're going to have techs, you're going to have LPNs, RNs, docs, nurses. Make sure that your camp insurance knows that. And they're going to want to know where their malpractice insurance is coming from too. So if you can get that blanket statement from the hospital, that's huge.
Yep.
Um,
Go ahead.
I just say we're very different because, first of all, our counselors have to be 22 or older, and our staff have to commit for the whole week. Medical staff, volunteers. We've always done it that way, and the only ones who can split the week are the doctors. Sometimes the nurses will split a week too. But when I say split a week, they'll have to come for at least 3 days. You can't come one day and go home one day and go back. So far, we've been successful. I don't know how long that'll last.
Right.
That's
That's
good.
different for us. Mary Ellen, go ahead.
We mandated that one year. We got to the point where we're like, this is crazy. I'm putting 20,000 different schedules together. I'm trying to literally cover hour by hour by hour. And so we did. One year we said, that's it. We're going to mandate you must do 3 shifts in a row. You must. And we struggled to get volunteers. I couldn't do it. It was impossible. I couldn't do it. So that year we actually had to lift that mandate right then and there, or we wouldn't have been staffed for the year.
Right. So
We've
Mary
been
Ellen
like-
does have a rotating schedule. She really does. But for the most part, like she said, once the nurses come in, we have returners. I mean, these are the people come back. So they may do 3 shifts, maybe not in a row, but they may do it on 3 different days.
Right.
You know, an evening shift here, maybe a morning shift somewhere else, and then, you know, help with transport or something like that.
Right. And we offer transport of our campers. We pick up at AI. We pick up in all 3 counties of Delaware. We only have 3 counties.
How are your walks there?
What do you say?
No, I think
Somebody
Don's talking to his wife.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, you know, there's nurses that say, look, I work Monday through Friday. There's nothing I can do. Can you help me on a Saturday morning to take the kids back to the hospital? That's one way you can help. And that's huge. You know, can you give me a morning? Can you give me an afternoon? Can you just hang out in we call our infirmary the zoo. Can you just come in and hang out in the zoo and triage for us? That would be great. We have an ER doctor at Christiana. He is the head of the residency program at Christiana ER. He gives me 4 hours. Every year he gives me 4 hours. And he just writes and says, put me where you want me. Tell me when to show up. You got 4 hours. And that's all I get. And it's wonderful. He's wonderful. So I'm very, very grateful for you just got to be creative.
I forgot, how far are you from camp? I mean, because we're, I don't mean you, but I mean, we're 3 hours from anybody who's going to come to volunteer. That's the other issue or problem.
I can see where that would be. Yeah, of course, that would be an issue. We're actually about 20 minutes from the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we have 7 hospitals that we treat children. So we do have 7 hospitals to draw in. And I have to say, one of our hospitals is phenomenal. Every year we get residents, every single year.
That's great.
It's been phenomenal. So that's very important too. And they take care of it at night, by the way, Mary Ellen. Everyone else can go to sleep and the residents stay up at night.
That's awesome.
The other nice thing, Mary, the other nice thing that Mary Ellen's, you know, that we started was by having the nurses and doctors be able to go out with cabins and just be with them at every activity. It's not just sitting in a medical facility and waiting for things to happen. they're actually out, making tutus. They're out riding in a canoe. They're getting in the pool and going swimming. And so they're able to have fun with it. And we found that that is probably the number one reason why people enjoy coming to camp, is because they get to, see the kids outside of a hospital or a clinic setting, and they get to engage with them and engage with the other campers, instead of just only seeing the ones that, may need some assistance. And we found that it's also really reassuring for our campers and our counselors that, when you have that kid who sitting by themselves, I don't want to do anything, my stomach hurts. Is it really a stomach hurt issue, or is it, oh, they're not getting enough attention? Having a nurse there, oh, your stomach hurts, then the nurse sits down and talks. And often at times it isn't, maybe it is they want attention, and they're able to quickly disseminate, oh, I think they just need to, get some attention, or I think they just need to be brought in with the other group. And it's very reassuring for all of the staff that they don't have to make any kind of medical decisions should something arise when they're out at an activity. You've got your nurse right there. They handle it. They know they could call the zoo. They take care of it from, start to finish. And I think that's another really reassuring thing.
It also means a lot to our parents to know that somebody is with their child every day. I mean, we all know, especially kids that are just coming out of treatment, they just feel safer knowing there's a nurse around. They just do. That's what cancer does in the treatment. And so they just even feel better knowing there's a nurse with them. And the parents do too. It's a huge way of gaining the parents' trust. They truly, truly appreciate it. One of the things in the chat was about nursing students. So my real job is that I'm a nursing instructor for our local community college. And yes, trust me, I've tapped into that. I bring clinical groups all the time. I'll grade the paperwork, I don't care. But yeah, I bring clinical groups in all the time.
Perfect. Melissa, anything else we want to?
Let's see. Well, there's your letter, right?
Yeah, absolute coverage. Mayor, is there anything else medically you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, unless there's other questions, but I think we covered it.
Right. And I think, Melissa and I definitely wanted to kind of close things out with kind of like our aha moments, and our big epiphanies that we have, and we have them all the time. For me, my epiphany with, being 100% volunteer, the one thing I want to share with everybody here is we need to make it okay for our volunteers to say, no, I don't want to do that, or I'm not interested in doing that anymore. It has been, you have that. I have the one guy that I refer to in my stories all the time about this, but we started as very much a camp of everybody knew each other. The reason you came to camp was because you were friends with the family that started camp and things like that. And there was only a handful of us who had no personal affiliation with the family. And so as we continued to grow, it was really because your friend told you, hey, come on, you need to do this. And everybody's coming from, I want to help this camp and I want to help children with cancer. And then you get into the planning phase and it's, oh, I've got this great idea. Oh, I know these guys. Oh, I'll give them a call and we'll get this. And it's these grandiose ideas, which are wonderful and very exciting. And then you come back to the next meeting and you ask so-and-so, hey, did you get a hold of the company for the activity? And they're like, oh, I didn't really. Oh, no, I couldn't get a hold of them. Or, oh, yeah, no, I didn't get time. And okay, that happens. It happens to all of us. But then, the meeting, then they come up with another idea. And then the next meeting, hey, did you follow up? No, they're great with coming up with ideas, but no follow through. And then we get to the week of camp and they're great at camp. They are your go-to person. They're wear many hats, do whatever I need them to. And my only frustration with this person was always, why do I have to listen to these grandiose and get so excited about these ideas? And then it falls through and it's annoying. And then we have to figure out what we're going to do in place of that, because we thought we'd have this and they never either couldn't get a hold of the person or they did, but the plans always fall through. So I talked to the person and I said, I would be lost without you at camp. You are my tech person. You are the one when I just need somebody quick, something happened at another activity, I need to pull a staff member, you're the one I go to. I can fill you in anywhere. I am so grateful that I have you. I said, and I just want to make sure, do you really enjoy being on the planning committee? This, doing the meetings every month, having to go out and solicit for ideas or, donations. And there was some hesitancy and kind of almost a defensiveness. And then I said, no. And the only reason I ask, I said, because you're so great at camp. I want you to focus on what you're great at. And that is the week of camp. You are so great for us at camp. I can tell you love it. The kids love you. Our staff love you. Are you sure that you're doing everything you truly want to do? And it was almost as if a light went off. He went, well, actually, I had, it is a time commitment for me to be on this planning committee. And I don't really enjoy getting donations, and I don't really enjoy reaching out to companies, but I'm great the week of camp. I'm there. And I said, say no more. You don't no longer have to be on. So if I can, give any kind of advice or anything, is give your volunteers a space or an opportunity when you see them struggling. Engage in conversations that gives them the opportunity to say, this is not working for me. I don't want people to feel guilty that they need to step away from camp, and that's really what people do. They often feel very guilty at having to say no to kids with cancer. What kind of person could I be to say no to a camp that helps kids with cancer? No, that doesn't reflect on you as a person. Everybody has life happen. And so we need to be able to give our volunteers the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to do this. Or, you know what? I really don't feel like that's touching me or making an impact for me. I think I would better be served here. And so just make sure you guys give your volunteers that opportunity. And I think you're going to find a lot of success with that. A lot of success. That's my moment.
Just mine really quickly is just, even though we're volunteers, we are 100% professionals, right? We know what we're doing in these jobs, and we call ourselves professional volunteers, but we are professionals in the camping organization. So and I really do see the value of trying to grow the organization. And part of that growth is knowing that sometimes we do have to find the funding to pay staff.
Mhm.
Yep.
So,
Mayor, any epiphanies for you as we close it out?
No, just the only thing is the amazement. I'm always amazed with how fast word travels. Not just bad, but the good can too. So get the word out. People are going to want to come if you give them something fun to do.
It's true.
Could I just say something? I see Dr. Mike is here. And if we were with you in Houston, Mike, we would all be saying how sorry we are for the loss of your facility. And we just want to wish you guys luck, and we'd probably be giving you a hug. So good luck I'm so sorry what happened there. And I wish many of us have supported you, and we will continue to support you, Dr. Mike. Yes.
Oh, you're still muted, Mike.
So before we sign off, though, I want everyone to look at the screen and give a big wave and smile. And Don's going to capture a little screenshot of us all waving and smiling. So if you all want to do that, and Don will take the picture when he's ready.
Keep doing it. Keep smiling. He's not done yet. Keep smiling. That's right. Smiles.
I took the picture. Keep it up, though. I like this. Don't
I
stop.
knew you would, Don.
On behalf of COCA, thank you very much, Gretchen, Mary Ellen, and Melissa. That was great information, and there's lots of great information in the chat if anyone wants to go back there and collect some resources and tips. But great presentation and great conversation by everybody. So thank you all very much.
Mary Ellen's information, Melissa's information, and I were all available if you guys need to contact us. We are in the meet away. I think Melissa's going to try to pull it up real quick. So you guys, if you wanted to screenshot it, our contact information, don't hesitate to ask. And that's, do that, ask questions, ask for support. No need to reinvent the wheel. We've all done it. And if we haven't done it, somebody else has. So please, if you need help, ask for it. We're more than willing to give it. All right. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
So
you.
much.
And before you all leave, I am launching the poll, our exit poll for COCA. So if y'all can complete that before logging out, that would be awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
Thank you.
Thanks, facilitators. Appreciate your help.